is Davina Gay from GWNet. So on behalf of the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, I'm presenting the next portrait of the Energy Transition Role Model Series. This initiative is supported by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. I'm here today with Dr. Linda Davis. Dr. Linda Davis is the founder and CEO of Giraffe Bioenergy, a developer of large-scale cassava bioeconomies in Kenya, producing both food and fuel to secure livelihoods. She has a passion for producing ethanol cooking fuels, ECF. Linda has over 15 years' experience in senior level positions within the renewable energy sector, including conventional and cellulosic ethanol technologies and algae-based biofuels. Linda earned her undergraduate degree in food science and technology at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya. She completed her PhD in microbiology and biotechnology at the University of Western Sydney. Linda also holds certificates in petroleum refining, project management, finance and accounting from Stanford University. Welcome, Linda. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
What has your journey to sustainable energy entrepreneurship looked like?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about my journey to sustainable energy, really starting from the middle. And the middle is me sitting in a meeting in Nebraska, which is in the Midwest of the US. We're sitting in a fairly monocultural meeting with about 2,000 people. And for the first time, an organization put in the CSR project, and they were talking about the lack of clean cooking fuel in Africa and Asia. And I was very surprised, maybe a little bit embarrassed, that I did not understand this to be a problem, even though that I was the only African in that particular room. So when people came to ask me whether I knew about, the lack of safe, clean, affordable cooking fuel in Africa, I had to say the answer was no, even though I had grown in this kind of community. I understood solar, I understood the lack of electricity, but I certainly did not understand clean cooking fuel. So I start there because that is really what gave me the passion to work on what I'm working on right now and to found Giraffe Bioenergy. They said working in renewable energy is something that for me started in the late 90s when I was looking for a topic for my PhD thesis. And way back then, renewable energy was only just starting to be seen as an important aspect. Climate change was starting to be mainstreamed. Al Gore with his movie, The Inconvenient Truth, had just started to come out. So the world was waking up to the reality of climate change. We knew about global warming in terms of smogs in big Asian cities, but there was really not a clear direction or clear policy around renewable energy. So, but that said, I started, researching alternative liquid transportation fuel. I mean, to date, we only have gasoline, petrol as the incumbent and the predominant fuel to move our cars and our vehicles around. Obviously, electrical vehicles are coming up. So that's where I started my journey and I understood ethanol as alternative to gasoline, as has been seen in Brazil. So I've worked in that space for about 10 years before I actually came to understand how ethanol can be applicable to cooking and can solve a problem that impacts 21,500 Kenyans every year in terms of deaths, that impacts over 4 million people globally in terms of death from indoor house pollution. This problem of the lack of clean, safe, affordable, efficient fuel impacts is bigger than AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria combined. So that sort of has been my journey, starting looking at alternatives for transportation fuel, and now culminating at looking at safe cooking fuel for our communities in Africa.
So what is it that motivates you in your day-to-day work?
So what motivates me every single day is just understanding that I am part of the value chain, the part of the solution value chain that could perhaps, help multi issue, the 21,500 Kenyans who perhaps, if they have access to affordable cooking fuel, will not have to die, right? That's 500 Kenyans every single week will not have to die. I think about the forest, I think about climate change, I think about efficiency. I don't want to spend hours before I can start to cook. So those are the kinds of things that whenever I'm feeling perhaps discouraged, as every entrepreneur can tell you, I think about the end goal. I think about the big picture of why it is we're doing what we're doing, and that gets me motivated every single time.
Mm-hmm. And you've just mentioned about feeling discouraged. So along your journey, what has been your severest hurdle and your proudest success?
Absolutely. So the hurdles have been, having to persist in the face of being told no, right? And I want to give the example of looking for funding for my organization. So just from a contextual standpoint, from my experience at the Partnership on Women's Entrepreneurship in Renewables, it became very clear to me that women are expected to look for small solutions, or should I say community-based solutions, rather than the big solutions, the scalable solutions that can really tackle the issue of clean cooking fuel availability at scale. So there was a lot of encouragement around, you 10 women form an organization and create some local solutions for yourselves, and not so much the idea that women can participate in a very, very scalable way, in a very, very big way to solve this issue. So I come out with what I think is a big idea, one that would require many millions of dollars of investment. And, the first thing is, why don't you start small? Why don't you, we don't think you should start as big as you're going, because whatever the reason behind that. And that was very, very discouraging to me, because remember, I am the one, and obviously the community that understands the problem knows that the solutions that have been deployed for the past 30 years are not going to get us to SDG 7, which is only 10 years away. So we have to start thinking things very, very differently. And yet, the donors and the financiers want to see incremental, small solutions that are going to make us miss the mark in 2030. So for example, IRENA and all global reports say that we need at least $4 billion flowing into the continent, not just Africa and South Asia, to solve the issue of biomass burning. And yet last year, we've only got 4 million, right? So there's a lot of money that is not going to be absorbed by small community organizations. We have to think big. We have to think about this scalable solution. So here I come with a scalable solution, and yet I get all these hurdles. So that has been very, very disappointing and discouraging, because there's a mismatch in ambition and action.
Yeah. And I guess in that same vein, what has been your proudest success?
Well, the proudest success is finally, after not giving up and deciding, look, I'm just going to get a job, I finally was able to secure institutional funding from an organization that got to see the vision and really got to understand that the incremental solution is not going to work. So this is probably going to be formally announced in the next week, but I have been able to secure a significant amount of funding that will allow me to fully participate in bringing ethanol cooking fuel at scale.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations. And looking back at your experience, you've had a lot of experience in senior roles, highly technical roles in the renewable energy sector. What career paths could lead young women to entrepreneurial activities such as yours?
What career paths? Well, for start, it starts with, the risk of this sounding as a cliche. Start with what you're passionate about, right? Start with a problem that you understand or that you want to solve. right? Because once that is clear in your mind, the problem that you want to solve, then the work career comes through.
Are there any specific skills a woman needs to be a successful, sustainable energy entrepreneur?
Specific skills. Now that's that's very contextual, right? So my journey, what has helped me is maybe not a skill per se, but character. Yeah, the characteristics that I've had to deploy, and a number of them come to mind. Number one is tenacity, right? You have got to be persistent in your pursuit for what you're looking for a solution, right? Number two is you've got to have the competence, right? To be credible, you've got to have the competence. Now, this one is a bit of a tricky one because I don't know everything that there is to know in terms of the technologies that I'm trying to deploy, but I know enough to be able to make my voice heard. And I'm a continual lifelong learner, right? So what I don't know, I go out, I look for a book, I look for an online course, I find the right people, I pick their brains, and I continually add to that knowledge, right? So be persistent, be knowledgeable in order to be credible, and then also be a strong communicator, right? That is something that as women, I feel we could always do better, really be able to articulate what it is that you're trying to do. I think it goes a long way in terms of getting the ecosystem of support you need to bring your ideas forward. Fourthly, I'm going to say is literally just show up, right? Just show up wherever these spaces are that your problem is being solved, or your passion is being spoken about, or something that you're interested in. Just show up and put your hand up and let people understand that you're there, and then you have something to contribute. It might be something small as you're beginning your career, and then before you know it, you are being thought of as a thought leader. You're being thought of as a subject matter expert in that space simply because you showed up. Anywhere there's cooking being discussed, be it in Nairobi, be it in Kenya, be it globally, it is quite likely that somebody would have heard about Dr. Linda Davis, because I make the deliberate effort to show up in these spaces.
Mm-hmm. And then, based on your experience, what are the opportunities and challenges for women wanting to make a difference as sustainable energy entrepreneurs?
So let's talk about the positive side of it. Yeah. So the opportunities are, look, as you very well know, 70% of our population are still looking for an affordable solution. They're still looking for something that is safe, accessible, reliable, right? And be that electricity, be that cooking fuel, be that cooking solutions. I mean, when you look at the energy space, there's a lot that needs to be done, right? If we look at our utilities, electricity prices are beyond the reach of the common the common person. So there's a lot of opportunity in terms of interventions that literally reach those four criteria, and I want to repeat them: safe, accessible, affordable, reliable, and efficient. I think I said 5, right? So we need to create interventions, any opportunity that will make renewable energy hit any of that criteria.
And one of the barriers to entry for women in energy that we keep on hearing is work-life balance. So do you have a recipe for combining your career with your family?
Number one, you can have it all, but probably not at the same time. Number two, a supportive partner is absolutely critical. And then the third one, and that's what I'm going to finish with, is delegate, right? The things that I don't have to do, I delegate, right?
If you look back on your professional career, what would you do different? Or is there something you do different?
My professional career, what would I do differently? Yes, I would have stood up more to bullies. I was bullied on a number of occasions working overseas, right? When people looked down upon me for reasons best known to them. I can think of many. And just not having the courage to stand up to them, if I had to go back again, I would have dealt with issues of discrimination, issues of misogyny, issues of being ignored, so to speak, and having to fight for space. I probably would have, I'd have better skills to handle those kind of career challenges a little bit better, with a bit more confidence and a little bit more direction in the outcomes that I wanted, than to feel the victim that I felt on a number of occasions throughout my technical career in renewable energy.
And then back to your professional journey as an entrepreneur. Can you share your most important do's and don'ts that you've encountered during your journey?
Yeah, so I'm in the beginning of my journey, but one of the challenges that I'm finding is just looking for the right partners. Finding the right partners is very, very critical. And this is looking for, when you look at operational partners and financial partners, right? You can get opportunities to be financed by partners that are not the right ones. So you've got to be very discerning in that way. There's a saying we used in the US that says, you don't want to dance with the bear, right? Because the bear is the one that's going to be calling the tune. You really have absolutely no control, no say in this particular dance. So you want to avoid dancing with bears, right? You want to make sure that you have equal partners that respect what you bring to the table and are not manipulative and oversized for what it is that you're trying to do. So getting the right partner is really, really critical. And the second one, which is a bit of a subset about that, is getting the right team. Really just getting the talent and the capacity to really bring forth products of quality, products of repute that can actually, attract the millions of dollars that Giraffe Bioenergy is looking to attract into the sector. So the right team is absolutely critical. So those are the two things that I can speak on.
Mm-hmm. And then to your ecosystem as an entrepreneur, which governmental framework conditions are needed to support women as entrepreneurs?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm happy to share that I think Kenya is quite cognizant of this fact, and that has been put in a number of policies in government. And the 1/3 rule, and the Ministry of Energy actually unveiled its gender policy 3 weeks ago at the Clean Cooking Forum, International Clean Cooking Forum in Nairobi. So there are policies in place that really understand that women or gender diversity or gender balance actually adds value to this ecosystem. But the problem is the implementation, right? So these policies exist on paper, but they're not implemented. So to me, that has been very, very frustrating, right? So there's policies around, financing for women. There's policies around leadership positions for women, on boards and pieces like that, but they're not enforced, right? You might be aware of, the Twitter backlash that a prominent hospital, like the Hospital of Nairobi, appointed an all-male 9-member board and put that out very proudly, as if there are no female doctors, right? And as you know, medicine is a profession that has existed in Kenya, and there are very many, amazing doctors, and yet it was not obvious to an important institution like this to think we need to have gender balance on the board. So how much more is a struggle in a new industry, in a new sector like ours, renewable energy, right, to really get gender balance right when there are not as many women entrepreneurs, right? There are not as many women working in this space. Yeah, they are there, to be clear, right? But so we need to make sure that we get this right, because if the old institutions are getting it wrong, right, then the probability of us getting it wrong are quite high. So we have to make sure that those policies are implemented, and we have to make sure we stay vigilant. The same way we called this hospital out, we have to stay vigilant with our energy institutions, specifically our renewable energy institutions, to make sure that there's gender balance and the policies are actually implemented.
Mm-hmm. And then just to cap it off, what message would you give to the next generation of women aspiring to become entrepreneurs in sustainable energy?
Oh, so many cliches come to mind, but I don't give advice. I share experience. So the message that I can give is, in my experience, is start where you are. Start where you are. If you've got a passion, there's a problem you want to solve, just start, right? Okay, Nike comes to mind, just do it. Maybe you need to delete that. Just start where you are and take it one day at a time, one step at a time, but just definitely start. We need a lot more entrepreneurs in this area. So my key message is, I do not want to be the go-to person. You know, there's a bunch of women you see in all these conferences, right? I want that to be more diverse. You know, meet different people, as opposed to going to the meeting and you're going to see Jane, Mary, Sophia, Frances. You start to know who the people are going to be, and I think that needs to change. And for that, I say, let more women look at this as a career that they can pursue, and let us create a critical mass, so we're not seen as a unique group of people. We're just seen as, yes, renewable energy has a number of female entrepreneurs that are actually putting out solutions into the community.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a powerful message to end the interview on. Thank you so much for taking your time to share your experience with us. And congratulations again on Giraffe Bioenergy and your new grant.
Thank you.